I'm comparing the military power of the sister nations of India and Pakistan. So first off, let's begin at looking at the military of India. India seems to be modernizing its military and its nuclear capabilities while keeping an eye on China, another world superpower. Now, India currently ranks 4th in terms of global military power, and India has been quickly developing new military technologies. Taking a look at the specific military statistics, the available manpower for India is 616 million. Active personnel sits at 1,362,500, and they have 2,844,750 reserve personnel. Now, in terms of Pakistan's military, the Pakistani armed forces are ranked 13th in the entire world, but they are the 6th largest in terms of active military personnel and the largest among all the Muslim nations. And also to note, Pakistan has the world's 6th largest nuclear arsenal. In terms of Pakistan's military breakdown, it looks like this. Pakistan has an available manpower of 95 million people. Their active personnel is at 637,000, and they have 282,000 reserve personnel. Now, in comparing the army strength of India and Pakistan, India's army has 4,426 combat tanks, they have 6,704 armored fighting vehicles, 292 rocket projectors, 7,414 towed artillery, as well as 290 self-propelled artillery. Now, for Pakistan's army strength, they have 2,924 combat tanks, 2,828 armored fighting vehicles. The rocket projectors in their possession total at 134. They also have 3,278 towed artillery, and their self-propelled artillery total is at 465. Now, moving on from the land up into the air, let's compare their air power. India has 676 fighter aircrafts and 809 attack aircrafts. Their transport aircrafts total at 857. Their trainer aircrafts are at 323. And they have a total of 666 helicopters. Ooh, that's probably bad luck. And also, India has 16 attack helicopters. Now, when we look at Pakistan's air power, we see that they have 301 fighter aircrafts, 394 attack aircrafts, 261 transport aircrafts, and they have 190 trainer aircrafts. Now, their total helicopters are at 316, and they have 394 attack helicopters. Continuing now with the navy of these two amazing countries. India's total naval assets sit at 295. In their navy, they have 3 aircraft carriers, 14 frigates, 11 destroyers, 15 submarines, and 23 corvettes, and their mine warfare vessels total at 6. In Pakistan's navy, they have 197 total naval assets. They have 17 patrol crafts, 10 frigates, 8 submarines, and 3 mine warfare vessels. Now, finally, let's end off this video in looking at their total military defense budget. India's defense budget is an estimated total of $51 billion US. India's defense budget is the 4th largest in the world and will be 12.1% of its annual spending in the year 2018 to 2019. And even though India's defense budget has really increased, a huge chunk of it is going to be eaten up by its personnel costs. So this may hold back some of India's armed forces plans, especially when it comes to acquiring new weapons. Now, Pakistan's defense budget is a lot smaller at $7 billion US, but it's reported that Pakistan will be increasing its defense budget by around 7%. Now, the past couple years, Pakistan's economy has grown quite a bit, especially in the year 2016, it grew by 4.7%. And with this, Pakistan's military can focus on a lot of bigger priorities like new combat aircraft, submarines, as well as its country's missile programs. The Indian Armed Forces are under the management of the Ministry of Defense of the Government of India. It's the world's 2nd largest military force, and it has the world's largest voluntary army. Now, India currently ranks 4th on the global scale for its military power. The Indian Armed Forces headquarters is located in New Delhi, India, and the Indian Armed Forces are made up of the following service branches. First up, we have the Indian Army. They take care of the land operations. The Indian Air Force, of course, the air, the Indian Navy, the seas, and also there's the Indian Coast Guard. When we look at the total manpower available in the Indian military, we see that there's 616 million people available. However, their active personnel sits at 1,362,500 personnel, and the personnel that they have in reserve is at 2,844,750. Now I want to move on into the military overview of Pakistan. So the Pakistan Armed Forces are ranked 13 in the entire world in terms of military power, and they're also the 6th largest in terms of active personnel, and they have the largest military amongst the Muslim countries. The Pakistan Armed Forces headquarters are at the Joint Staff Headquarters in Rawalpindi, Pakistan, and all of the branches work together during operations under the Joint Staff Headquarters. Pakistan's military has several branches, and those include the Pakistan Army, the Pakistan Navy, the Pakistan Air Force, then we have the Pakistan Marines, and the paramilitary forces. Pakistan's available manpower sits at a total of 95 million, and their active personnel is a total of 637,000. They have 282,000 reserve personnel. So that was your military overview of India and Pakistan. Now I want to talk a little bit about their special forces, starting off with India's special forces. The special forces of the Indian Armed Forces refer to those units that are under the direct command of the Indian military and specifically organized and trained to conduct and support just special operations. So you only calling these big guys when they're really needed for a specific task. The special forces under the Indian Army are the Para Special Forces, and this is a unit that was created in 1966, and the unit is responsible to go on missions such as hostage rescues, unconventional warfare, special reconnaissance, foreign internal defense, counterinsurgents, seek and destroy, as well as personnel recovery. Then in the Indian Navy, there's Marcos. The Marcos, or Marine Commandos, is a special force unit in the Indian Navy created for conducting special operations. And then under the Air Forces, there's the Garud Commando Force. And this unit is specifically designed to protect Indian Air Force installations from attacks coming in from enemies. Now, some other Indian special forces that you've probably heard of are the Gatak Force, the Special Frontier Force, and the National Security Guard. Moving on now into Pakistan's special forces. Under their army, they have the Special Service Group, commonly just known as the SSG. Now, this is a special operations force that is primarily responsible for 5 types of missions. There's foreign internal defense, reconnaissance, direct actions, counterterrorism, and unconventional warfare. Under Pakistan's Navy, there is the Navy Special Service Group, the SSGN for short, and this is a special operations force that conducts small unit-based military operations in all types of environments, including the sea, the air, and the land. And they're pretty versatile. They do this by adapting to the tactics of the unconventional warfare. Now, by the way, before I continue this episode, for more videos relating to Pakistan and India as nations on a whole, as well as videos about their militaries specifically, we have a playlist dedicated to these types of videos for both of these countries. Now, I'll have a link to the playlist in the cards section of this episode, as well as I'll make sure that I link to those playlists below in the video description box, and of course I'll feature them at the end of this episode. So there are many videos that you gotta watch, and I highly recommend them if you really want to expand on the information that I'm sharing in this episode. Now, when we look at the army, these armies of India and Pakistan have really clashed 4 times in the past 70 years. And by the way, this doesn't include attacks that happen from time to time, but I'm talking about full-out battles. Now, when we look a little closer into India's army strength, we see that they have 4,426 combat tanks, 6,704 armored fighting vehicles, 292 rocket projectors, 7,414 towed artillery, and 290 self-propelled artillery. For Pakistan's army strength, this is how they compare. For their combat tanks, they sit at 2,924. Their armored fighting vehicles are a total of 2,828. Pakistan's army has 134 rocket projectors and 3,278 towed artillery. Their self-propelled artillery count sits at 465. Now, moving on to the air power of these nations, India's fighter aircrafts are a total of 676, and they have a total of 809 attack aircrafts. Their transport aircrafts total at 857. There are 323 training aircrafts, 666 helicopters, and 16 attack helicopters. Now let's see how Pakistan's air power compares, because the Pakistan Air Force has really been modernizing its inventory and improving a lot of its precision strike capabilities. Their fighter aircrafts are a total of 301. There's 394 attack aircrafts in their possession, 261 transport aircrafts, 190 trainer aircrafts, 316 total helicopters, and their attack helicopters are a total of 394. Now the final aspect I'm looking at is their navy strength. In their possession, India has 295 total naval assets. There's 139 patrol crafts, 3 aircraft carriers, 14 frigates, 11 destroyers, 15 submarines, 23 corvettes, and 6 mine warfare vessels. And the numbers for Pakistan's navy strength look like this. They have 197 total naval assets, 17 patrol crafts, 10 frigates, 8 submarines, and 3 mine warfare vessels. When you look at the defense budget, India's defense budget, according to the latest numbers, is $58 billion US. India allocated 4 trillion rupees, or roughly 2.1% of its gross domestic product, all to support its troops. India's defense budget is the 4th largest in the entire world and will be about 12.1% of its annual spending. Pakistan's defense budget is a total of 11 billion. So Pakistan spent 1.6 trillion Pakistani rupees, and that's about 3.6% of its GDP. It's also received 100 million in foreign military assistance in the year 2018. Also, one thing to consider is that both of these nations have ballistic missiles. India has 9 types of operational missiles, and these missiles include the Agni 3 that has a range of 3,000 to 5,000 kilometers. Pakistan's missile program was built with Chinese assistance and includes mobile, short, and medium range weapons that can reach any part of India. So in closing, the relationship between India and Pakistan in some ways makes the Indian subcontinent a very volatile place to be. And with its militaries at odds with each other, it does bring up concerns about the usage of nuclear weapons in the near future, which is a pretty scary thought. We hope it never escalates to that. Now, it may sound like wishful thinking, but perhaps it's time that these great countries embrace their differences in a general sense and celebrate the rich culture, the beauty, and the accomplishments that they both have, and then work together for an even brighter future.